Hello everyone and welcome to another interview video. Today's one is a little bit different because I try to keep every guest different from a photography point of view. And today we're going to be speaking with Ulysses. I followed his work for quite some time. His work is very different to all the other photographers that I've had on the channel so far. And it's a bit more on the abstract side, but also it's quite bold and, in my opinion, it's very unique. So we'll talk more about it with Ulysses, but for now, that's it. Hello, Ulysses. Welcome.
Hi.
And tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, what you do. Off you go.
Cool. My name is Ulysses Aoki. I'm a photographer based in Tokyo. I'm actually born and raised around Japan, but my dad is from the US, hence my bland English perhaps. I like to consider myself a visual artist. I'm very just interested in the arts, but mainly through the means of photography for now.
Very good. And for someone who's not come across your work before and says, oh, you're a photographer, what's your photography about? How would you describe your photography?
Yeah, my photography, it's funny because I think we all kind of start in similar places and then we just end up branching out into different areas. So I started taking portraits because I had a bunch of friends that were into fashion around me and it was like, oh, take photos of them, right? But I wanted to take more photos and I ended up on the streets taking photos and some wandering around. And then from then on, I think, Roman, you've expressed my photos as a little bit more abstract, but I'm just interested in color, very dense colors and layers and contrast in general and shapes and form. How do I express it? I think someone told me that my photos, not all of them obviously, some of my photos look like beautiful nightmares, and that's a very big compliment for me, I think. That's something that, obviously it's impossible with photography, you're dealing with a scene in front of you, so you can't always control, what you take photos of, but I do aim to take photos as such. Yes.
And looking at your work, so every photographer has certain visual cues. So for me, it's light, for example.
Yeah.
For other people, it's shapes, colors, etc. It's something that piques your interest. You're walking down the street and something catches you. What is that for you? So if you walk down the street, what is it about the environment or what's going on that will catch your attention and make you raise your camera to at least investigate it?
So I think just what I said previously, I'm very interested in kind of dense colors. Dense is, I guess it's a little bit hard to put, but I really like oil paint. And then there's some kind of tangible denseness to those colors. Obviously it's colors, but also it's, there's a certain texture to it. With photos, it's a little bit hard because the output is always something very 2D. But at least from a visual aspect, I do aim to get something that are dense and rich. In addition to colors, I also look towards things that are a little bit more, have a little bit more maybe like shape and form. An easy way of achieving that is through layering or through contrast. Contrast as in like light and shadow create layers naturally, and that's also something that I'm very much interested in.
With a lot of your work, as you mentioned, there's some dense colors. However, there's a few photos that I personally like of yours which are black and white. So my question is, what makes you choose color versus black and white, whether it's as you're taking it or in the edit?
Thanks. That's actually interesting because I consider myself a color photographer mainly. So to me, I'm more satisfied when I get a good color photo rather than a black and white.
Yeah.
However, I like black and white too. It's just that, again, I think I'm starting to be able to see the world in color a little bit more, and I do feel like I'm in a way obligated to try and find better colors. But in terms of black and white, why maybe I post black and white sometimes, or maybe why I use black and white on occasion is, I don't know, sometimes I want to mix things up. I feel like I want to try out new things, and then sometimes maybe this is just being very optimistic, but I want to try to maximize an opportunity to its fullest. So if I see a scene and be like, oh God, this would be such a good black and white image, I'm shooting digital, so it's like I have that luxury. I don't have to, give up that image that I had in my mind. So to me, it's coming from that, it's less of an afterthought. It's more of like I'm looking at something being like, I know this would work in black and white. Then, why not take it?
With your photography, do you see photography as just a means to have fun? It's just something you do for enjoyment? Or do you see it as there's a bigger, pun not intended, picture to it, as a more kind of holistic long-term project? How do you see it? Do you see it as just like a fun pastime? Or do you see it as that there's more to it than just a few snapshots of your life, of your trips, etc.?
Yeah. For me, photography is not just a hobby. When I started taking it more like really seriously 8 years ago, from then on, to me, again, it's more of like a life work than a hobby. I don't think it really matters if it's like 100% your full-time gig or whatnot. I think what matters is the soul you put into it. And to me, I put the time in, I put a lot of my resources into it. I put a lot of my mental capacity into it, and I take it very seriously. It's still fun, but I take it seriously, I guess. And also, in the long run, what I do want to do is I want to make at least one really good book, like a really good one, not like, ZINES and, small books that you can make yourself. I think that's also great, but to me, I want to make a book at some point in my life that hopefully can show what photography can be capable of, hopefully pushes a few boundaries of the existing framework of photography. I know I'm saying a lot, but that's something that I really have been trying to work on. And maybe also like a physical exhibit that pairs with that, again, like showcasing a little bit more of like, working not within the current boundaries of photography, but maybe going just a little inch further is something I want to do in my life. Yeah.
You've been shooting for quite a while now. Do you remember, was there a particular point where you started to really understand photography? Maybe something clicked, maybe you took a bunch of photos and you thought, oh, okay, I'm starting to get this now. Was there a particular moment that you can recollect?
Yes, that's a great question. Yeah, I think the first time I ever felt like something really, really clicked was maybe a year in of taking photography more seriously. I was in Sydney and I was walking around every day for like 2 weeks, and I was with my parents and they thought I was going insane because who walks from morning to night with a camera just aimlessly, right, these days? So they literally thought like I was either on drugs or like I was like meeting some chick somewhere, but sadly was neither. But within that time there was one specific photo that I took. It's not like a great, I don't think it's like an amazing image or anything looking back, but it's the first time when like I wanted to work a scene or work an image, and there was a clear goal that I had in mind within that kind of scene that was in front of me. And then I was waiting and I was snooping around to see what's happening, and I was expecting something to happen, and it did. And then that moment that I expected to happen, in the viewfinder, and then clicking the shutter exactly when that happened was the moment that I thought, maybe I'm onto something, and maybe I'm improving, and maybe if I continue this long enough, I can get better at it.
There'll be a lot of people watching this who are just starting out They love the idea of photography, but they want to improve, they want to get better. There's a lot of advice out there. All of it is valid, but if you can simplify it and boil it down, what advice would you give to a beginner photographer that can set them on the correct path?
Yeah, I think there's two things that I'd like to address. One big part of it is maybe not take like social media influencer advice too seriously, including me here. I think that could be a trap. You never know. You know, it's not like we're all certified to give, you know, proper advice to everyone. But so within that, I do advise to look at the photos and the work and the history of, you know, great photographers out there, like an easy pointers like photographers in Magnum, for example. Look at their work and analyze that. I think that's like the easiest shortcut, honestly. You can even find videos of them talking on YouTube. Amazing resources for when you're starting out. You know, buy maybe like a book of a bunch of collections of great photos and then start looking at what you like too. That's also an easy pointer. And I think the second piece of advice is, you know, within the realm of the advice that I can give. I think this is just based on experience, but at least when you're starting out, if you try to work within a specific framework, I think that helps out more. So what I'm saying is, like, there's so many options right now. You can, you know, get a digital camera, you can get a film camera, you can use a zoom. Zooms can go from fucking like 10 to 300 millimeters these or something like that. I don't know. But I think if you want to get better, it is easier to get better, I think, if you know what you're doing and you have control over the situation a little bit more. So an easy piece of advice would be like, use just a 35 for a year, or it's like, just do color, or just do black and white for a year. Or like a combination of both might be advice for especially people that are starting out. Yeah.
Just to jump on Ulysses' point about having something that restricts you, I think that also applies to people who are further down the line and not just beginners. So for example, once I stop traveling, I want to implement that for myself. I want to spend a month shooting just at 35mm, or just JPEGs, or just, I don't know, black and white, because I think that's a very good exercise to hone a specific skill. And it's a good exercise regardless of where you are in a photography journey. I mean, I'm quite far in, I would like to think, and this is definitely something that I will be doing a lot more of later down the line. Where do you see photography going over the next 10 years?
Ooh, I think that's a really interesting question. Well, I do think that, you know, right now with everyone having smartphones, literally, I think 4 to 5 billion people in the world have smartphones, which means 4 to 5 billion people in the world have access to cameras. And also with social media, the visual and digital imagery is something that we interact with every day. What I'm leading up to is that I think, you know, documentary photography is important. Good documentary photography is still important, but at the same time, everyday smartphone users document everything for us photographers right now. So I think that there will be an increase in the importance of more artistic photos or photographers. There's going to be more, I think, focus on individuality within photography too, is a take that I personally have. And another one is that I think digital, like, camera technology too is also kind of peaking. It's going, there's a ceiling, I think, to it. And then right now, because they've hit the ceiling, they're now going into video because that sells, and, you know, then it's like, what's the next thing, right? But I think within the next 10 years, I have an educated guess that there's going to be something new that needs to be introduced. Not in like a way of, some kind of like new technology that overrides digital photography, but something like an example being maybe like a swappable chip that we can use that computates the images that we're taking at real time, and then it's not a filter, but maybe like beautifies it, or has like imagine something like maybe like not a film filter, but like a sensor in front of a sensor that can like change an image and make the colors really pretty, I guess. I think like those kinds of like there needs to be something new implemented to digital camera photography in the future. I think another example of it is like the medium format, sensor tech that's improving. People want something different, especially working artistic photographers are wanting something different other than, just clean, perfect digital photography. So I hope that's also something that can change within the next 10 years. Yeah.
Very good. Let's just wait for that annoying music truck to go past.
Yeah.
These things do my head in.
I know. And like a lot of the time...
Is that an Amazon gift card they're advertising? I think
no,
it
it's
is.
a Line friend ad. Line is, it's like WhatsApp here.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think if you're taking photos, then you can accidentally add a friend through that.
It's a bit strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, where can people find you?
Yeah. You can find me on the internet or in the streets of Tokyo, I guess.
Yeah, it's all links below.
Instagram, YouTube. Yeah, mainly Instagram and YouTube, sometimes Twitter, but link in bio, right?
Wicked. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Sweet. No, thanks for doing this, man. Thank you.
Should we get some coffee?
Oh, yeah.
Is it?